Hey, hey, hey.
Hey, everybody, and we're live.
We're live. We're live. Once again, welcome to One and Done Tuesday evening live with founder and co-founder the Millers. Uh, we are going to share this live right now so that it can be public on our pages. So give us a brief moment as we are doing that. If you are currently watching, we are going to ask that you would share with your network systems on your personal page. And we're going to get into some dialogue on today, continuing the series on the significance of support, the significance of a healthy support system. All right. So be on the lookout for what we are currently doing within One and Done. And first thing I would like to do is just give a shout out to everyone who has sent out birthday wishes onto me. I turned 41 on today, so I want to thank my wife for
Happy birthday to
there she goes.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday. That's my wife. She's the life of the party. And so I want to thank everyone who sent out the birthday wishes via phone, via text, via email, and via Facebook Live, Facebook rather. And then we also want to take the time out to just acknowledge all the Geminis that are in the house. If you are going to watch this later, or you're currently watching, if you're a Gemini, give a shout out to all the Geminis. We also want to go ahead and
Do we want to see the comments?
yes, we want to see the comments.
Okay, so don't we have to go?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
There you go. And so we want to give a shout out. We want to give a shout out to everyone's birthdays in the month of June. Happy birthday to all the birthdays that will be kicking off this month, this 6th month out of the year.
Happy birthday, y'all. All y'all Geminis out there, happy birthday. Gemini season, huh?
Gemini season. All right, so we are only with you all for 30 minutes on this live broadcast, Tuesday evening live with One and Done. And so we are continuing this series on the significance, the importance of healthy support systems.
Mm-hmm.
All right, why is this important, or how does this connect with the population that One and Done provides services to? All right, it's important because we understand that those who are currently incarcerated, they have either been involved with unhealthy relationships that help lead to unhealthy behaviors, such as substance use, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, all these chemicals being taken in that are mood altering chemicals and substances that influence judgment, right? That cause for the vision to be impaired, if you would, that led to decisions that ultimately brought forth incarceration. Okay, and some decisions, individuals didn't even get a chance to be incarcerated. It actually cost them their lives, and so that's why we're really believing and dealing with the importance of having a healthy support system. All right. We're also dealing with it because we understand that we are currently working with individuals that are also in community, who have not experienced being incarcerated. But if they should not be introduced to the importance of having a healthy support system, they could be at a high risk at entering into the Department of Corrections, or perhaps even losing their life without even having a chance to turn around and see some of the goodness in the land of the living, or see some of the goodness in fatherhood and motherhood, and so forth. What would you like to say about that piece, the intervention prevention piece?
I mean, I think you hit it on the head there, that that supports are important. It's just important. And so when we started the series, we sort of realized, or actually when we did our very first One and Done Live, we started it off with talking about, supports and why supports were important. But I think we realized that there are so many aspects of support that we can go. Mm-hmm. And so hence why we've been on supports since the very first One and Done Live. It's imperative mm-hmm. for every individual to have supports.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's awesome. I appreciate that. I'm just going to tell you the truth. After being incarcerated from age 20 to 26 on intensive supervised release, which is the highest parole that one could be on. I mean, the most strictest, the most barriers, it's strict. As an individual that had to walk that off for a year, I'm telling you that I think it's 14 plus years that I haven't seen no handcuffs. I haven't seen no squad cars. I haven't seen the backseat of a squad car. I haven't seen no jailhouse. I haven't seen no cell, no 6x9, none of that. And I'm just going to tell you, I believe and I know one of the reasons why is because I have a strong support system. I have mentors. I have people that care about me, that love me and want to see me win, right? And don't want to see me back behind those walls. They want to see me live life to the fullest of my potential, okay? They want to see me walk in restoration. And so One and Done wants to pay that forward, because we are not just talking about something we've read in our textbooks with our undergrad, right, and our grad school degrees. We're talking about something that we are living, all right? We are living and walking truths of what we are sharing with the people on tonight.
That's right.
And so, as my wife said, we're talking about the community here, the importance about healthy support systems, and how the community was involved in the conversation, where we are talking about mothers and fathers and grandparents and residents, the importance of establishing those root relationships, right, to help foster the gifts, to help foster some of the talents, and then help foster the vision and the dreams of our young people, all right, to try to help set them up for a promising future, okay? So we talked about that in the first week. The next week, May 18th, it was, May, the month of May, is the Mental Health Awareness Month. Our dear friend, Candace Ellis, MHP, MBA, psychotherapist for entrepreneurs, came on out and just blessed us with her wisdom, blessed us with the wealth of experience that she has, and just let it out there. And some takeaways that we have already been utilizing is don't cope with. All right, don't cope with, but cope through.
That's right.
And my wife was really blessed by that. What do you want to say about that? Break that down a little bit.
Just because I think she spoke to this just a lot of times, in our communities as people, we have been taught to cope with certain situations, meaning accept the situation as it is and cope with it. And what she explained was cope through it, meaning that it's a process.
Yeah.
And I really, really, really like that. Like that really blessed me, because it's not just I know the title of your company is One and Done, but sometimes it's not just a one and done thing. You have to cope through, and that means you're going to continually rise up. But to deal with it, as it keeps coming. So cope through it. Yeah, that blessed my soul.
All right, absolutely. Thank you for that. Onika. So don't cope with it, but cope through it. All right. Let us not become stagnated. And also, Candace spoke about Miss Ellis, Coach C. Talked about respond versus react. All right. There's a difference between responding to a situation that happens in our lives and reacting to a situation that happens in our lives. When one reacts to a situation that takes place, we're thinking and or reacting irrationally without considering the consequences that are going to take place after we react. We're not taking into consideration the ripple effect of how it's going to impact the lives of those that are in our family, those that are on our job. We don't take into consideration all of the individuals that is going to hurt and cause for suffering and pain to come about. But when we respond, it means that we actually sat down, we took the time to analyze the situation, process it, think about the different outcomes if we did selection A or selection B, and then we made the choice that was going to produce, right, the fruit that we are trying to see take place in our lives. All right, we make the conscious decision that we want to continue to go forward towards reaching our dreams, towards obtaining our goals, towards walking and striving in our purpose, opposed to hindering ourselves by reacting instead of responding. And so we thank you for that, Coach C. We are still eating on that very richly, and we look forward to the continual partnership. But today, we're going to talk about the importance of support from an education standpoint. All right. Today we have with us 20 plus years, Miss Onika Miller, an educator for 20 plus years within the MPS, Minneapolis Public School District's school system. Okay. Let me tell you, this awesome pillar in our community, in our household, all right, in the faith community, in the school systems, graduated from Augsburg College, undergrad, her BA, Bachelor's of Arts, cum laude. Did I say that right? Cum laude. We're talking about a GPA that she probably couldn't get. Who were some of your support systems that helped you reach and obtain that academic goal?
Absolutely. So first started out, hadn't been back to school since high school. I was way out of touch with technology and everything. However, my auntie at the time was very tech savvy. And so she supported me a whole lot in those first couple of years, getting acclimated to everything, having to relearn, how to type a paper, the correct, all of that. So she was a support. Of course, my mom, at the time when I started, I was a single parent. And so my mom definitely helped me out as far as, our son now is concerned. And then, of course, during the process of me obtaining my bachelor's degree, I got married. And so, of course, you were a great support there for those last couple of years. You're welcome in completing my educational journey. But I had a whole system. I had a whole community of support helping me to get through it. And it wasn't an easy journey. It was a really long process. I was going part-time. So it took me longer. It took me a lot more years than it would take for just if you're going, full-time. So I had all you all.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Once again, my wife, she shared with us the importance of a healthy support system to help us reach our goals in life. let me just tell us this. Nobody gets to where they are at alone.
Say that.
I just have to say that again. We have to say that again. Whether it's a bad place or a good place, nobody gets to where they are at all by themselves. Someone or all of us had people, all right?
That's right.
Had people, had systems put in place that helped us reach our goals in life or helped us enter into a place that wasn't meant for us or that wasn't intended for us to be. But if that's you, I want you to know that hope is not lost, but that you can get back up. And that's why we're continuing this series on the significance of support, healthy support. So we have a community is made up of educators, of therapists. Yeah. And let me just tell you, I'm not ashamed to tell you, yours truly has a therapist, all right? You know, I know that the name of this organization is One and Done, but the name of it, One and Done, is really part of my testimony. I don't have no intentions on going back. I went to prison once, right. And I'm not turning back. Turning back. It's one and done, all right? And because we are talking about the importance of support from a community standpoint, we understand that One and Done cannot provide every service to meet the masses or to meet the needs or to meet the demand. But collectively, together as a community, we can operate and function as a family to help mitigate some of these issues we're seeing in the lives of one another. And to help catapult individuals into their destiny, into their purpose that God has for them. All right. And so today, you know, it gives me a great pleasure to introduce a mother of 26 plus years of age, our son. Mm-hmm. All right. A grandmother of 4+ years, mm-hmm. A wife of 12 plus years, going on 13 at the end of this year, mm-hmm. and an educator, a school teacher who started off her journey at Anthony Middle School, right? Yeah. Went to Jenny Lynn, Franklin Junior High. So she taught most of her tenure in junior high, working with middle school kids. Yeah. But then she went to Jenny Lynn for a year to teach the elementary kids. Yeah. And now she finds herself working at your very own North High. Go Polar, psych. Go Millers, go Millers. So she has a robust work experience working with within the Minneapolis Public School District school system. So help me welcome my wife, my friend, my lover, my partner, right? Because we don't have no staff yet, but it's on the way, and we are just holding one another up. We're supporting one another. That's right. We're supporting one another in this thing here, but the help is on the way. And so I want to ask Miss Miller, is it okay if I call you Mrs. Miller since we're talking to you in the role of an educator?
Yes, because my kids call me Ms. Miller.
I hear a parent in that, because you say you didn't say students, say kids. So tell me a little bit about that. Even though you are a teacher, mm-hmm. I heard you refer to the students as kids. Mm-hmm. Why is that?
Because I feel like as a teacher, as an educator, educating students, that it is almost this motherly role that I kind of take on. And they're not just my students, they are scholars, but I feel like they're my kids. They belong to me for the year, so they become mine. Mm-hmm. So that's why you hear me say my kids.
All right. That's beautiful. Thank you for that, Ms. Miller. And I tell you what, Facebook family and friends, there's been several accounts, several times when I've been out in public with my wife. We were just at the latest one. We was driving through the drive-through at Chick-fil-A, and one of those kids, one of her kids said, "Is that you, Miss Miller?" Because she had on her mask, during the pandemic. And my wife responded, "Oh my, yes, it is me." And I just, you've had several episodes like that. How does that make you feel when you? It seems like there's a connection there. How does that make you feel?
I love seeing my students, my kids in the community. It's amazing. This past year, though, so this particular incident that you're talking about, she is a student in the class, but remember, we've been dealing with COVID, and so we've been on distance learning. Well, a lot of the older students don't turn on their cameras, so she knew what I looked like, but I didn't necessarily know what she looks like. And so when we pulled up, she was like, "Miss Miller, aren't you in my second period class with Mr. G?" And I was just like, "Absolutely, but look, see what happens because we don't get to see your face on camera. I don't know who you are." So we laughed at that. And when we came back to school, got in class, and she was sitting behind me, and I was like, "Chick-fil-A, huh?" And she was like, "Yep," and we chuckled. So it's amazing to see kids, out in the community. And then it's also amazing for me to see them as, when they've grown. Like I know students now that when I started as an SCA, which is in other districts, they call them para. And so I know kids from back when, I see kids now and they're grown, got families, done bought houses and everything. That I run into from time to time, and I see, and it's just it's a wonderful thing to see and to witness. It feels good.
Yeah, it does. It does. Miss Miller, thank you for that. You touched on you did not know her because you don't get a chance to see your students, right, or your kids because.
Hey, G.
Because you guys are doing the classes through the computer system or through the technology world.
Yeah.
And with that being said, a lot of the students have their cameras off. All right. So it's easy for them to notice you all and the faculty in public, but you guys don't get a chance to know them. And so my question becomes at this time that a lot of some issues that play a role in our kids academically, their classroom performance, how they engage with their peers, all right, and even perhaps their graduation, starting their freshman year and finishing with their class can be at risk at not taking place, or it can impact them in a negative way. And some of those reasons can mean not having their parents see them. See what I'm saying? Their parents, their mom, their dad, their siblings, or their grandmother, or whoever it is in their household, are not actually seeing them for having that humanity component. I want to ask you the question: how important is it?
Back up real quick.
Yes.
Tell me what you mean by parents seeing them.
Parents seeing them. You have to see. You have to see the individual. You can't. You actually seeing the life, seeing the humanity piece in them, and not just seeing them as the title son and mom. Gotcha. or daughter and dad. It goes beyond that. You have to see the individual. Okay. See the emotion, hear what's being said, feeling that intimacy. That's what know means, all right? Know means that it's getting to know someone on an intimate level, going beyond the surface of things, right? And so often, because there's drug abuse in the household, there's alcohol abuse in the household, there is an absentee parent, there are financial issues that are taking place, there is domestic violence that's taking place. All of these things that may cause for the caregiver to not see their child. How important is it for the faculty that are in these kids' lives for the majority of the year to actually see their students, to see these kids that may help them be successful along their academic journey?
I think it's very important. And what you're referring to is relationship.
Yes.
And so it's really, really important for educators in the classrooms, teachers in the classroom, to build and have relationships with kids. Mm-hmm. When you have a relationship with your students are more likely to perform better when you build relationships with them. And like there's data, behind that. There's data to prove that kids that don't have relationships with their teachers, they do not perform as well as those that do. And so knowing your students, not just academically, but beyond that, is very, very, very important.
Absolutely. Relationship versus just seeing them as another student, just as another number, if you would. We see some questions in the comment box. The SEAs had a better relationship versus the teachers. Would you help us with that?
Yep. So SEAs are special education assistants or paras. And Gina is absolutely correct. We actually work together in the classroom. And because we worked directly with our students more often than the teacher did, we had a better connection with our students. But I think that teachers too can build connections with students. You just have to, you have to make the time. You have to build in the time. And students are smart. They can feel when a teacher is genuine and not genuine. They can feel when a teacher is really wanting to build with them versus, I'm just here to get a check.
Yes, absolutely. And so let's just say, let me draw a scenario. If you have a kid that is experiencing an unhealthy environment, and then when you look into the community, the kid is experiencing trauma because they're seeing other kids there in their age group that are being gunned down, all right, by their peers or by other community members, experiencing police brutality. And so that trauma is built up internally, all right, that puts up barriers. What are some ways that a teacher or any faculty staff member inside the school system can help tear down those barriers so that they can build that bond or that relationship that you're talking about that's so important to helping them be successful?
I think, when it comes to traumatic situations that happen to our students, we experience that a lot. In our high school, during this pandemic, it seemed like the violence that was taking place on the north side had increased during the pandemic, and so we were losing a lot of our students. And so a lot of things that I've seen, one thing that we do is we provide a space for our students to come and to be able to just, whatever it is you need to do, vent, cry, talk, share memories, whatever it is that you need to do. But also within our classroom, we also provide those spaces. I've seen some teachers, have students free write. Some kids don't want to share verbally. They don't want to be vocal. And so sometimes we have kids free write about just, take, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and just write however you're feeling. No judgment, no anything, not caring about punctuation and grammar. Just get it out. Just let it out. If you want to share, you can share. If you don't want to share, you don't have to. So those are always great. And then I think too, sometimes we teachers get stuck in wanting to, provide our lessons and wanting to teach. But when you're dealing with kids who have had traumatic experiences, sometimes you have to learn to just stop. I need to stop my lesson and we need to talk, or we need to, we just need to hold space. We need to take a minute. We need to breathe. We might need to have a moment of silence. We might need to pray.
Mm. Mm.
So I just think as educators, when we're dealing with teens that are experiencing, or children who are experiencing trauma, we sometimes got to take off that that educator lens, that content lens, and we just have to be human.
I appreciate that. Thank you for that. Talking about Ms. Miller, because she's talking from the education standpoint. We're a little bit over time, but we're going to keep on rolling out for maybe about 5 or 10 more minutes. Okay. Trauma stems from the word traumatic. And a lot of times we hear the acronym TBI. All right. And TBIs usually occur when there's a blow, an external blow to the brain. All right. And the brain, it rattles, right? So it takes on the blow, right? The initial blow, and then the brain rattles inside of the skull, which continues injuring the brain. Okay. And so that could come from a car accident. That could come from a altercation or a physical fight. That could come from a number of physical blows that take place to the brain. But we want to talk about, we have been talking about how traumatic life events. So for now, my education background in grad school, we call this adverse childhood experiences, known as an acronym of ACEs, adverse childhood experiences that cause trauma. And then we later see events take place that unleashes the PTSD. All right, there are triggers, right? Yeah. And then because the healing has not taken place, or the issue has not been resolved. And so we are hearing some important instruments that should be put into place to help set our kids up for success. We talked about a relationship, right? Yeah. We talked about dropping alcoholism, and dropping drug abuse, right? And dropping unhealthy, intimate partner sexual relationships, and picking up healthy social tools such as relationships. And what would be some other healthy social factors that will help play a role in one's success?
I would say, so we talked about the importance of relationships, and not just student to teacher relationships, but also student to student, healthy student to student relationships. And sometimes that can get sticky, because sometimes kids, they're still learning, but sometimes they can be mean.
Okay.
So just finding, what I mean? What do I want to say? Finding healthy friendships, seeking healthy friendships, student to student. But then also you can, when you talk about the school aspect, like extracurricular stuff is another way to connect and build healthy systems. We know that being involved in sports, social teams, we have, there's after school, like computer clubs, and all of those things help build, supports around a student.
That's great. That's great. Thank you for that once again, Ms. Miller. I want to touch on something that's very powerful here, and we're going to conclude with this one, and just give another shout out to Ms. Miller for sharing her experiences, work experiences with us. We understand that racism is something that is floating around globally. All right, and there it shows up in various systems. Okay, it shows up in the medical field. It shows up in the criminal justice system. It shows up, in the education system. All right. It shows up in housing. It shows up in employment. It shows up in all of our systems. And that's what we're working on trying to dismantle some of these systems. And one of those ways is really by being knowledgeable of how they show up in spaces and identifying them and calling them out. How are some ways that you would say systemic racism shows up in the academia world?
So the first thing I would say, honestly, is that when we're talking about systemic racism, white supremacy, all of those, that type of stuff, it shows up first and foremost in people, because systems don't create themselves. People create the system. And so it shows up in us first. So addressing, like really taking the time to learn and become conscious of the biases that we have is important for our students. Okay. And then when we look at the educational system and white supremacy, racism, and how it shows up in systems, we're talking about discipline, like the way that we discipline our students, right? So we know that data shows that students of color are disciplined at a higher rate than their white peers. There's data to back it, okay? That's one way. Our hiring practices. So what are teachers, what's the demographic of teachers, right? So the demographic, predominantly white female teachers. So then that means there's an issue, right, that's going on in our hiring practices. How do we get more teachers of color in the classroom? Because we know that students of color perform better when they're exposed to or have teachers of color. Systemic racism in our school systems, how does it show up? Special education referral to special education. So our data shows us that there is a discrepancy between the way that we refer students of color versus our white students. So there are more students of color that are referred to special education than their white peers. How else? What did I say? I said people. I said hiring practices. I said our disciplinary policies, and then our referral practices. And our content. Look at our curriculum. Look at our curriculum and our content. Standards. Look at the standards. The standards are based on white middle class norms. That's what our standards are based on. So then when you have our students of color coming into a white middle class classroom, right? There's this tug of war because I'm not used to your norms. That's not how I was raised. So shows up in many different ways.
Well, thank you for that. And there we have it. There we have it on today. Hello. Thank you for joining us. There you have it for this evening, rather. Ms. Miller, my wife, she has educated us on today.
So can I just add? And so I think now we're kind of seeing a shift. Before we end, we're kind of seeing a shift, especially in Minnesota, and especially since the George Floyd incident. I feel like I've seen more educators want to become aware and conscious of how you know, race and racism are, you know, how it affects our kids, and then what can we do to become anti-racist teachers? How do we close this gap? How do we educate, you know, our students of color? And how do we recognize that this system in and of itself has been and can be traumatic for some students?
Well, all students, I would say. I'm thinking about the book that I'm reading, My Grandmother's Hands. You know, we all carry trauma in our bodies, all right? So whether we are experiencing the event directly or experiencing the event indirectly, it's traumatizing us, and it's having impact on how we think. It's having an impact on how we respond. It's having an impact on how we live. You know, if someone is walking or living intense, they're not really living in their complete freedom, all right? Which means that they're not able really to process things accordingly to help them make a rational decision in life. And so we have to deal with that trauma. And in this closing here, I want to say this, and I'm glad you brought this up, is that now our education systems, with the George Floyd event and many other events very similar or the same, has forced us as a people, as a community, to take a look at what has been going on for generations, and call it for what it is. It's wrong, right? And now we're dealing with this as a system, and it's going to take all nations of people under this one nation to sit down at the table, right, and to have this discussion and to construct structures that are equitable for all ethnicity groups, right, and all races, because we all have to live in these communities together. We all, our kids, you know, saying, got to go to school with with all other kids, right? They're going to become the next doctors. They're going to become the next lawyers. They're going to become the next political officials. And so if we want to change the narrative, right, if we want to change the narrative within our systems, we have to start with our kids, because they are our future. And so we can't just put it on one group of people. We have to say, this is a human race issue. This is a human race problem. And so with that being said, we have a responsibility to embrace those who are coming out of prison back into our communities. The statistics says this: 1 out of 3 individuals that you may be sitting with on your job, in your church, probably in your family or wherever, has been involved in the criminal justice system. The reality of it is that that individual who has been involved within the criminal justice system and are being released back into community, the statistics also say that by the end of their first year, they're going to have a TV, which means a technical violation, right, of their parole, okay? Within their first year. The statistic also says that within their first 3 years, they're going to commit a whole new offense. And so we as a community, all right, have a responsibility as we're offering these services within the Department of Corrections, offering these services into the church community, offering these services into other nonprofit organizations and into the school systems. We as a community have a responsibility to help exercise prevention intervention so that we can lower or attack the mass incarceration rate. And so we want to thank Ms. Miller, who is just climbing and doing great things in the pillar and within the education system, for her wealth of knowledge and for not seeing the students as students, but seeing them as her kids, all right? That's bringing that humanity piece to the classroom. And so we thank you for joining.
Can I say one thing before we get out
sure.
of here? So if you're wondering why we're talking about educators, is because educators are one part of building, one part of being a support. You know, kids come to us for 7 hours, out of the day. That's a long time. So it takes a community of, and they go through school from kindergarten all the way through, high school and then beyond. And so it really takes a large number of teachers to support this one student.
Mm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So where teachers are a part of the equation, we're a part of that support. We're one link, you know what I mean, in the chain.
Mm-hmm. And those of you who are parents, come to parent and teachers conferences. Come to parent and teachers conferences. We all are in this together. It takes a village to raise a child.
That's right.
All right. And it takes, although we're individuals, we're one community. Thank you for joining us. Hit the like button, share it with your support systems, contact us by way of email. You can do that at info@ondusa.org, or you can give us a phone call at area code 612-400-4046. We thank you for joining in. We hope you were blessed and that you have something to take away and spread the word. See you in 2 weeks.
See you later.